just move that around for almost, like most of these things, we're only cooking them for like 30 seconds, okay? You're supposed to have a perfect egg on top, but it's close enough, in my opinion. Man, it's so good. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I'm about to make some lunch for myself, and I thought, and this is going to use a bunch of different things from the garden, and I decided to share this recipe with you because this dish is a Korean, traditional Korean dish, and on the one hand it might seem complicated and difficult, but it really isn't if you understand exactly what it is you're doing with the different ingredients. So the dish is called Bibimbap, B-I-B-A-M-B-A-P. I mean, that's the English spelling, of course. That's not the way Korean people spell it. And of course, there's better videos on YouTube on how to make this by people that have grown up eating it and so on and so forth. And I'll put a link at the end to what I consider to be the best video I've seen on how to make this. I was introduced to this dish. There was a summer when I was living in the United States, and I had very little money, and there was a Korean restaurant right next to where I lived, and I could get bibimbap for $5, and it's basically like a big bowl of rice with some meat and some vegetables and an egg and some tasty sauce. And I fell in love with the dish, and I've been making it ever since. It's a great way to use up garden stuff. Let's get started. Let's get going with this thing here. So the thing about bibimbap is that a number of the ingredients need to be sweated. That is to say, they need to be prepared, cut up thinly, and have some salt applied to them, and have a certain amount of time for that salt to wilt them down. So I got some cucumber here. So those things take the most time. This thing here, you want to have a bowl of rice. So I mean, if you're starting, you start your rice first. I got some leftover, that's why I'm having this for lunch. I got leftover rice, and I just noticed I got all the things I need to make bibimbap to go with the rice. So this all started with, hey, I got some rice. Why don't I make something that goes with that? I'm gonna cut these up really fine. Any kind of knife will do, as long as it's good and sharp, right? So I'm cutting up my, this is a cucumber, a kind of pathetic, forlorn, sad-looking cucumber, and I cut that up really nice and on the bias, right? Sort of, instead of cutting it directly sideways, sort of 45 degrees to the directional axis of the cucumber. The risk of sounding too complicated. Now, normally you wouldn't just make this for one person, you make this for multiple people. And I'm going to cut up a bunch of vegetables here and salt them, and I'm going to do it all separately. If I was not filming a video, I'm doing this so it'll look nice, but if I was actually doing this for myself, I just throw them all in a bowl in one big mess, right? Anyway, so I've cut up, I don't know, maybe like an ounce or half a cup of sliced cucumber, fresh cucumber. Put a pinch of salt on the cucumber, stir that around a little bit. Okay, like that, and set that off to the side, all right? Now I got some zucchini. I'm gonna do the same thing. I don't need a lot here, but this is lovely Magda Lebanese zucchini, not Korean. Doesn't matter. I mean, if there's gonna be people that watch this video that know exactly about this dish, maybe even Korean people, and they might be appalled at the liberties I'm taking with this dish. But in the end, you know, to me, it's just a wonderful way to use up some leftover rice and some fresh vegetables of different kinds and an egg, right? And some other leftovers. Right? There's a perfect sort of traditional way to make this. If you go to a restaurant, that's probably how they're going to do it. But I would imagine people in their houses, Korean people, they just use what they've got. All right, so I got this nice zucchini cut up here, right? So now I'm going to put a pinch of salt in with the zucchini. There's a couple of vegetables here. We're just basically cutting them up fine, applying salt, and sweating them down. That's the general idea, okay? Sweating meaning the salt will pull water out of the vegetable. After about 10-15 minutes, ideally half an hour, but we can grab this stuff and squeeze the water out, squeeze the salt and the water out, and we're changing the texture and the personality of this vegetable. Normally when you cook zucchini, it becomes a mush, but when you salt it and sweat it and squeeze out the water, it stays in a noodle-like format. All right, so now we got our cuke and our zucchini. Ideally, because the cuke is green, ideally you'd have like a yellow zucchini. So you have ideally with bibimbap, you want all these different colors, so it's beautiful. But this is what I've got today. So I'm using what I've got today. All right, so now I'm going to cut up a bit of red pepper just so we have some red. Okay. If everything I'm doing with this knife looks easy, it's because the knife's sharp. If you don't know how to sharpen knives, learn how to sharpen knives. I'm cutting this very finely, very thin. All right, so now I got my red pepper. That's all you got to do with your red pepper. That's it. Okay, I got red pepper ready. I got some mushroom here. Now this is dried mushroom that I've soaked with water to soften it up. I'm just going to cut that up fine. I've got, normally with bibimbap you'd use, I mean, I don't know what all the rules are, but often the idea is that you have it with beef. I haven't got beef. I've got some leftover chicken today, so that's what I'm going to have with it. Not a lot either. You don't need a lot of meat with this, especially if you've got a little bit of different kind of mushroom. Again, there's traditional ingredients that are exotic and difficult to source. The video I'll put a link to at the end of this will show you all of that if you're really if you're really interested, right? But for today, this is fine. This is just a chicken quarter. You know, if I had some nice, fresh red meat, I'd be happy to use that. But this is what I got, and I'm just making a quick lunch for myself. And I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible to show how easy this is. So I'm going to put the chicken in this bowl. I'm going to put this mushroom in the bowl. And you don't have to do any of this, right? There's different, but I like the meat and the mushroom to be together because it just makes it simple. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to put garlic. This is garlic harvested from the garden this year. So I'm going to take a clove of garlic and dice that up and throw that in with the chicken, with the meat, right? Just like that. I'm trying to do everything nice and quick. All right, that's ready. Now, in addition to that, we're going to add a little sesame seed oil and a little soy sauce. All right. A lot of the recipe for this calls for sesame seeds, actual sesame seeds, like toasted sesame seeds. I haven't got any here today, so you know that's what I'm going to go with, and that's just what I've got, right? Another thing I was supposed to grab out of the garden was a little bit of green onions, like the onion tops of green onions. I forgot to grab that, so I'm, just going to go with what I've got here today. I suppose I could throw, just to have something in the onion category, or I could add a little bit of actual onion. I mean, green onion's better, shallots, of course. I'm sure someone's going to be offended by my using this instead of that, especially when I've got a garden full of them, but I've started filming, so I'm just going to go with, I forgot to harvest that out of the garden, but a little bit of onion like this, cut finely. That'll be totally fine, totally fine. Now, I mean, traditionally, you might even put raw beef on top of the bibimbap when it's cooked, but I don't do it that way. And there's lots of different ways to do this, of course, right? All right, so that's ready. That part's ready. What else do we have left here? Bibimbap is supposed to have bean sprouts. I don't have any bean sprouts, but I got these leftover green beans. Again, I'm sure I'm offending someone with using these, but you know, we need something green. We need something bean. I got some of these nice, tasty. These were just kind of like sautéed last night with a meal we had. It's basically like fried chicken dinner sort of thing. So I'm just cutting them up so that they're sort of extra fine, lengthwise, right? Like a matchstick, right? So this, again, none of this stuff takes particularly long, especially if you've honed and refined your knife skills. Okay, so this won't take long at all to cook. All right, so the bean is ready. The last thing we got here is some kale. Now this kale, I picked this kale and I cleaned it, and then I poured boiling water over it to sort of break it down. So that's why it's in a clump like this. It's the dead of summer, and I find it's August, and I find kale in August tastes better if you've poured boiling water over it and let it sit for a few minutes. That's just me. That's my palate. You do whatever works for you. All right, so I got this nice kale here. Because you're supposed to use, traditionally, I think you use something like spinach, right? But kale is what I've got. It's not the same thing, but it's what I got. And I'm also going to add a little bit of this. This actually is sauerkraut. Okay. In Korea, they have a thing called kimchi, which is fermented. A fermented plant that's not unlike a cabbage. It's related. It's a cousin. So, in my experience, I mean, if you have kimchi, use kimchi. But you can just throw that in with your spinach or whatever spinach-like thing you're using, and you saute that. It'll be fine. It's not the same, but you know, I haven't eaten a lot of this food. It's close. Okay, and this whole video is about just using what you got, being quick, getting it done, right? Having a quick meal. Okay, so now I've done all of this in a very short amount of time, right? Let's go over to the stove and cook this thing up. I'm going to put this rice in the microwave for a couple minutes, because as these things come out, they're going to go in the bowl. Just for the sake of explanation, all these ingredients that I had sweating, right? You know, with the cut up finely with the salt. You just take those things and you squeeze them. Put them in your hand. Squeeze them. Squeeze all the water out. See all the water coming out of there? Right? Get the water out. So the water you've squeezed out, that's got all, this prevents them from being too salty. And you have that nice texture of the brine vegetable, right? So squeeze them, put them in a new, right? Normally I do this over the sink, but I'm just for the sake of filming, I'm doing them here. So now I've squeezed, look how much brine. That's like a tablespoon of water or more that came out of the zucchini, right? So now this is ready to saute. All right, I got my pan hot. You don't need a wok for this. If you got a wok, use a wok, but you don't need a wok for this. All right, so we're going to do the meat last. I'm going to start with just these different veg. So here's the zucchini. Everything is cooked very quickly and for not much time. Got my rice all heated up and ready to go. So as the ingredients become ready, I'll just put them on the plate here. I'm using a Teflon. I mean, normally I would use my wok, but I'm just trying to use like really simple stuff, like what I think most people would have around. So I'm just using a Teflon pan. Right, so I got the zucchini. I'm going to put a little bit of garlic there, maybe like half a teaspoon of garlic. Again, I'm just making this for myself. A little bit of soy, a little bit of sesame. All right, and we just move that around for almost, like most of these things, we're only cooking them for like 30 seconds. Okay, we're just applying heat. I got my heat on about 60-70%. All right, that's enough heat. Okay, so the zucchini, that's good. Now, I mean, I've seen this done with 3 ingredients. I've seen this done with 5 ingredients. I've seen this done with 10, right? I mean, it really depends on your energy and endurance as a chef. All right. Now we got the cucumber. Again, a little bit of garlic with that, and just the sesame seed oil with that. I'm just putting like a tiny. I'm not telling you my measurements here because this all depends on how much you're making. But think about what would be doable for one dish. How much you could take as one person, and then for however many people you're cooking, you just multiply that up from there, right? And a lot of these actually call for toasted sesame seeds to be added as well, but I don't have those, right? All right, so that's it for these. I'm going to put them sort of opposite the other green because you don't want 2 colors touching. That would just be the worst artistically. Again, as I mentioned before, normally I'd be using yellow zucchini for this, just for color, just for the, not for flavor, but just for appearance, right? Okay, now we can put in, again, I'm just adding like a teaspoon of oil here. And you don't need this if you've got a Teflon pan, but anyway, I'm going to add our red pepper. Notice I'm not adding salt to anything because the vegetables that we salted down and the little bit of soy sauce and stuff we're going to add to this dish, that's enough salt. Trust me. I've seen it done different ways. You have to really like salt to be adding salt in here. I like salt a lot, but there's only so much salt one needs, right? All right, so we got that. Just going to give that a couple seconds. All right, I'd say it's been less than a minute, and that's enough. It's almost like a salad, right? But it's like a salad, but everything's cooked. Everything's cooked a little bit, right? But it just helps the digestion and all that sort of stuff, right? Okay, now let's add the beans. I'm not going to do anything with these other than just a little splash of soy sauce. These have already been, and maybe a little bit of, not going to bother with the garlic with these. Just going to move them around just to warm them up. They've already been cooked, right? So we don't need to do much here. Normally you'd use bean sprouts, right? So you'd boil them for 2 minutes, or you'd put them in the pan with a bit of water, put a lid on, and give them about 2 minutes, no more than that. That's enough for those. That's fine, all right? You got a nice green here, nice sharp green color here. All right. Now I'm going to go with this little bit of kale and sauerkraut, which is my poor man's kimchi. It's not kimchi, but we're going to add some hot pepper spices to this dish later on. And for all intents and purposes, this cabbage is going to act like kimchi. I'm going to use the rest of my garlic here. I just cut up 1 clove of garlic, and I've been adding portions of 1 clove of garlic to each of these dishes as we've gone along. Because, you know, there's only so much garlic. Again, I'm making one dish, right? So you think about how much garlic you can warehouse, digest, handle in a meal. Now I got a clove of garlic in with the meat, and then all the other stuff. There's one, that's 2 cloves of garlic. It's about as much as I can take and, you know, be civil around other people. I love garlic, but yeah, there's only so much. So with that, a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of sesame seed oil, move that around. Again, this seems like an elaborate meal for a lunch, but I haven't really spent a lot of time. Okay, so I'm going to throw that in there. Think about, you know, when you buy that salad in a bag, how long it takes you to turn that salad in a bag into a meal. Not too far off from what I've done here. Maybe a little bit quicker, but, you know, look at the healthfulness of what I got here. All right, so now I've got the meat. Okay, so this is just chicken and garlic and onion. Again, you're supposed to use green onion here, and green onion cooks very quickly, whereas onion like this doesn't cook quickly. So again, I wouldn't recommend doing the onion the way I've done here. Use green onion. But I want that onion flavor. I mean, I got lots of garlic, I got lots of allium, but I want that onion flavor, and I love raw onions. I don't care, right? And there's certain like Indian dishes I eat that I eat raw onion right with the dish, so I don't care, right? Anyway, we've got that going. A little bit of soy sauce with the sesame seed oil. I'm just barely cooking this because this is already cooked. But even if it was raw meat, you'd cook it just enough so that you feel that it's done, right? It's just changed color, it's browning up, and so on. But this has already been cooked. This is basically chicken quarters that were roasted in the oven. And I've got this pan nice and hot and stuff. So I'm going to put that right in the center, like so. All right, so I've got lovely color, contrast, lots of vegetables, healthy meal. Again, it's like a salad with rice. It's like a salad that you cooked with rice underneath it, right? But now the creme de la creme, the final thing. And you don't have to do this if you don't like it. My wife's not a big fan of this step. Technically, you're supposed to clean the pan between every application, but I mean, I'm going to mix this all up anyway. Anyway, the last step is to add an egg right on top. Okay, so got my egg there. And I broke the yolk. I screwed up here, but who cares, right? So the idea is you just let the egg go until the white is no longer clear, right? So right now I can see that the white is sort of like, the white is white where it's touching the pan, but it's clear in other places, right? So you can spread the egg out a little bit, probably turn the pan off at this stage. You're not cooking this too much, you're just like barely cooking the egg because you're gonna put it on top of this hot stuff, then you're gonna mix it all in, right? So you're not cooking it for long. If you're really, turned off by the idea of the egg being half raw and that sort of thing, just put a little water there and put a lid on top and steam it for a couple seconds, right, to sort of fully cook the egg, if that's a concern for you and you don't want to. There's always a risk when you have an egg like not 100% cooked, right? And if you want to get, you could technically make the egg over easy and that sort of thing. So this doesn't look, artistically the way bibimbap's supposed to look. You're supposed to have you're supposed to have a perfect egg on top, and I don't have a perfect egg on top. I was like semi-perfect egg on top. But it's close enough in my opinion, all right? All right, so, I actually agonized over this egg because I didn't get the egg perfectly sunny side up. And I thought of just redoing the whole thing. But if you want to see bibimbap done with a perfect egg, watch all the other videos online. There's plenty of them. The point is, this is just, a regular day. I'm whipping up a quick lunch, and I don't care about stuff like that. Also, when you actually eat this, you mix it all up together, right? So here's what it sort of looks like. Just imagine that that's a perfect sunny side egg up on the top. I'm not going to waste a perfectly good egg for that reason. Before you mix it up, you get this Korean pepper sauce, or I can't remember what this sauce is called, but basically you buy this stuff at any Asian store, or even grocery stores tend to have this stuff, okay? It's just this red pepper sauce. It's delicious. It's a key part of the flavor. If you're new to this, I would make one line across, or maybe two, like an X, right? Right? Everything beyond that starts getting hotter and hotter, right? And then, despite having all this beautiful color and contrast and the beautiful look of the dish, to eat the dish, you actually, to me anyway, you mix it all up. and eat it. So it's actually a very full meal. It's got a lot of vegetable in it, very little meat, right? So this is a plant-based dish with a lot of flavor. If you're getting into it and you think it needs a little bit more boost, you can put a little soy sauce in it. You don't have to, right? If you go to a restaurant, they'll always offer you some of this and some of this usually, right? So you just adjust it if you want it more soy, salty, heat, right? And this isn't just heat. This red pepper sauce has got like a fantastic flavor, all of its own. And I mean, part of the enjoyment of this is when you mix it all up, getting the egg yolk, right? The egg yolk has to be runny, in my opinion, so that you get that runny egg yolk all through the dish, and it just adds this fantastic flavor. And of course, there's more purist, more sophisticated, more ethnically accurate ways to make this dish. But the whole point of this video is to show you the basic principles. That it's not hard to do, it doesn't take long. It's the sort of thing you can whip up, and I don't know how long this video took. Doesn't feel like it took too long, maybe 15 minutes, but maybe it took longer. I mean, if I wasn't filming, this would be a lot quicker, of course, right? But anyway, let's give her a try and see what we got here. Man, it's so good. The cucumber is crunchy. The zucchini is crunchy, not soft. Got the meat taste. You've got sesame seed oil, the soy sauce, a little bit of heat. This is, I mean, look at it. Look how healthy that looks. Right? This is a delicious, healthy, easy to make, in my opinion, meal. And it's no big deal to scale this up for a family. No big deal at all. And if you've got kids and they like eggs, it's a good, the egg is the gateway drug. The kids, you put this bowl of all this crazy stuff in front of them, but there's an egg on top. They know what that egg is. They like egg. So by mixing the egg in for them, it like makes everything good, solves everything. So it's again, I didn't make this video to show the best way to make bibimbap. There's better videos online about that, made by people that have eaten it their whole life, which I discovered this stuff in my late 20s. The whole point was to introduce you to this culinary style, so that you can broaden the ways that you use the stuff coming out of your garden. I've often mentioned in my videos, when you have a garden, the stuff's coming out of the garden drives your diet. You have to use everything up. And it can get really boring cooking everything the same way all the time. So for me, you just adding these different culinary styles, it makes things so much more interesting. It improves your skill with the knife and in the kitchen and learning about these different flavors and so on. You learn about other cultures. It's just a wonderful, it's a great way to sort of take your kids somewhere without going anywhere, right? I can't take my kids to Korea, but I can give them this wonderful sort of simple traditional dish. There's not a lot of work. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. And until next time, have fun in your garden, have fun in your kitchen. Thanks for watching.